Welcome back. Next up, we will learn Deque. So it is very similar to vector, except that the elements are not continuous in the memory. So in RAM, they're not one after another. Due to the internal representation, Deque organizes them as basically Deque is organized as a list of lists, so to say, and differs from vector in with push front and pop front methods, which add and remove elements from the top and off the top, respectively. Depends. So let's go ahead and take a look. I've actually written the code out here, the entirety of the code here, and I've been making a very stupid mistakes in my recordings, and I couldn't figure out what it was. So basically, I had an empty Deque. I'll explain how they function, etc. But I've been using the pushback method, and I wanted to add integer 100 at the end of the line, at the end of the Deque. And then I wanted to print it out onto the screen. But basically, I was printing it out onto the screen before I've added it to the end of the line. And I continuously kept on getting random things. I think I lost an hour with this stupid mistake. When I saw what the problem was, I was like, wow, are you kidding me? But anyway, the reason why I've actually said this is not to make a joke or to humiliate myself more than I need to, but rather instead, I wanted to state this because I thought to myself that something like this will probably happen to you. And I know a lot of my friends who are also developers, sometimes you create a piece of code and you keep on running it, and something that just doesn't work. You looked at the code 100 times and you can't figure out what the problem is. The compiler doesn't tell you. It's a error of logic, but you just can't. It doesn't have to be. It can be something that a compiler can detect as well. But in general, you can't fix the problem. You're looking at the code and you really don't understand. You spend hours and you go onto forums and you look at it, looking at it all over. The best solution is just to get a fresh pair of eyes to take a look at it. For example, this stupid thing that I was doing here because I was really tired. A friend came along and she was like, "What, dude? What are you doing? Are you nuts?" And in the first 3 seconds, basically, of looking at the code, she figured out, hey, you're calling it at the end. You're calling it before the pushback method. You're printing it out onto the screen before the pushback method. Anyway, the moral of the story is, if you're stuck, get a fresh pair of eyes to have a look at it. Believe me, you will benefit from it a great deal. Anyway, let's go over this. So this is very similar to vectors. You just include Deque here, and the syntax is more or less the same, if not the same, except for the actual name. So we've declared 1 of 10, 1 of 5, 1 has no elements, 1 has 3 elements, and all 3 elements are initialized to number 7. So the same as in vectors, no difference there. This is basically a printout for the contents of Deque4. So it will print out 3 7s onto the screen. And this is the preferred method of referring to the elements of Deque. Same as for vectors. I've already explained this with vectors. It's exactly the same here. No difference pretty much. Again, the bool, EMP1 and EMP2, the bools, basically just checking whether they are empty or not. One will be empty, the other one will not be empty. Deque3 will be empty, Deque2 will not, because you can see Deque3 is indeed empty, it doesn't have a size. We didn't define like a size or the elements or anything like that. We haven't initialized any of the elements either. And down below, I'm doing a demo of the pushback method. So you have std and NL. This is just for formatting purposes because you're going to have 3 7s that are printed out onto the screen from here. And then we're going to print out the size of the Deque3. Then we're going to use the pushback method to add 100 at the last position. And afterwards, we will request for the size one more time. In addition, we will print out the last element of the array, basically, which also happens to be the first because we've added only 1. So let's go ahead and run this. And there you go. So it basically here it says 777 as we have initialized it. So down below it says 0. I think I have one too many new lines, but it's fine. This line you see here, it says dq3.size. It says 0. The size is 0 indeed. We do the pushback, and the integer is 100. That is what we are adding to the end of the line, so to say. And down below, we want to print out the size again, as you can see from the code, and then we will print out the integer that we've added to the end of the line as well. So which is also the first and the last element, because the size is 1. Okay, so let's close this and move on. Sorry about that. My throat is tormenting me today a little bit because I've casted God knows how many videos. I don't know, I just felt like in the mood or something. Anyway, that's it. But we can also create an initialized basically this what you have here would be the same for this. Basically, the ints, if you have a type int, and if you have 10 elements of type int, and if you haven't initialized them yourself, they will all be zeros. For double, there will be like 0.1, 0.0, 0.0, etc. But if you want to initialize them, you can go ahead and do that as well. So you can type in std : dq, and we're gonna go ahead and let's say it's gonna be int. I don't know, integer seems the most convenient. dq, and this is gonna be fifth one if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it will be the fifth one. Again, the names are arbitrary. That is just how I've chosen to name the DQs for the sake of demonstration. And I can add like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So I don't think that there is a need to add any more. And now let's not use the for loop, which is a longer version of the printout, but rather instead let's go ahead and try to print this out in a with the for each loop that is new in C++11, and you will see how the code will be simplified. So just type in for int I dq5. There you go. Simple as that. std cout I, and we're gonna just do this. Hurrah. So they will rotate and they will be printed out onto the screen. There you go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Simple as that. So another way of printing it out and a way of initializing it. No big deal. And what we can also use the push front and pop front methods. So let's take a look at those. Just two last methods that I wanted to go over with you, just to go over with you, and then we're gonna move on into the next tutorial. So if I type in dq dot pop back, this will basically delete the last element, and after deleting the last element, the outlook of this will change. So we need to basically just print it out one more time onto the screen, because we need to see how it actually looks like. And we're just gonna type in std cout well, this is yeah, I actually have to do it here. Maybe there are other ways, but I really don't feel that creative tonight. And L. Okay, so there we go. We will compare the two outputs. And now we shall compare the two outputs. What is, right, dq5. There you go, basically 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we have removed the last element. It's 5, 4, 3, 2, as you can see. Unlike vectors, Deque has push front method as well. So we can push something up to the front. Simple as that. I mean, it's nothing to break your head against the wall with. So it's very simple. Just type in push, underline, front. You just have a certain amount of these methods, and you might think, oh, how will I remember all of these things, etc. Believe me, you won't have problems remembering anything as long as it is that you know what it is that you want to do and what it is that you need to do it. The names for these things and the forms of the function, they are embedded into IDEs. So if you just start typing at the IDE, the integrated development environment will help you out with suggestions. And if you can't really remember even the first thing about the function, you can always look it up on the net. It's fairly easy. Like, there are a good amount of forums out there where you can find a ton load of useful information. So as long as you're actually using it, as long as you're actually coding, developing some sort of an application or doing something useful, you will always be able to pretty much I don't want to say remember, but you will always be able to find what it is that you're looking for. And the more code you write, the greater your fluency with it will be. So the more you write, the faster you will be able to write, because you'll save a lot of time by not having to look up the names. Anyway, Deque push up front 100, so you can go ahead and create the printout again, and we would like another end line. So I want to go into the next line as well. Let's go ahead and run it. Okay, so it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, and then it pushes 100 to the beginning, and it's 100, 5, 4, 3, 2. So put something up, put something in the back, put something in the front, remove something from the back, etc. No big deal. You can use all of these methods basically to manipulate the contents of your DQs. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and bid you farewell here, and we will go ahead and continue in the follow-up tutorial. We will talk about string, which is something that you pay close attention to the next tutorial. String is a type which you will use quite often, and you should understand it to the maximum extent, in my opinion. Anyway, now I bid you farewell again, and hope to see you in the follow-up.